All right, let's dive right into today's explainer. We are unpacking a genuinely fascinating and honestly deeply urgent 2026 article by futurist Anthony Starr. The whole piece centers around one massive, unavoidable concept: quantum world currency. Starr analyzes this wild dual threat currently looming over our global financial system. On one hand, we've got the structural buckling of traditional fiat money, and on the other, an impending technological event that could literally expose our entire digital economy. But more importantly, he lays out a highly specific quantum-safe solution for the future of global wealth.
The author kicks things off with this incredibly powerful statement: money has always been an illusion agreed upon by the masses. It's one of those quotes that forces you to just pause for a second and really challenge the underlying trust we place in the systems we use every single day. I mean, think about it. It's kind of wild that we trade hours, days, and years of our lives for a few digits sitting on a digital screen or some pieces of paper in a wallet. For decades, we all just sort of agreed that paper backed by government promises held value. Then we shifted our faith to digital ledgers protected by standard mathematics. But what happens when both of those foundations, the economic promise and the mathematical security, crack at the exact same time?
To wrap our heads around this futurist framework, we're going to break it down into 5 key sections. 1. The end of fiat money. 2. The Q-day reality. 3. The quantum ledger. 4. The sovereign mesh. And 5. Surviving the financial shift.
Okay, starting with Section 1, the end of fiat money. So the author asserts that our current, unbacked paper fiat system is buckling under its own weight, mostly driven by runaway global inflation and a massive fragmentation of institutional trust. And to prove his point, Starr highlights this quiet rebellion happening right under our noses. Global central banks aren't just complaining about instability, they're actively reacting to it by buying physical gold at record-breaking volumes. In fact, over the last few years, central banks have quietly scooped up thousands of tons of gold, reaching accumulation levels we really haven't seen since the Bretton Woods era. He notes that gold has actually recently eclipsed U.S. Treasuries as the world's premier reserve asset. The traditional macroeconomic pillars are visibly cracking, and it's driving the most powerful financial institutions on Earth to return to the oldest asset in human history.
Now, Starr isn't suggesting we go backwards to using armored cars and archaic heavy vaults to solve this. Instead, he points to real-world asset tokenization, or RWA. If you compare the legacy system to this new approach, it's a total game-changer. We synthesize the absolute, non-printable scarcity of physical gold with the lightning speed of modern digital infrastructure. By anchoring digital coins one-to-one with institutional-grade physical gold sitting in audited vaults, we create a mathematical anchor that sovereign states can actually trust. You basically get the hard scarcity of the past mixed with the frictionless speed of the future.
Moving on to Section 2, the Q-day reality. But here's the thing, simply tokenizing gold isn't nearly enough. Today's digital financial networks possess a fatal flaw that goes way beyond basic economics. And this brings us to what Starr calls the Q-day reality. This is that looming threshold when a fault-tolerant quantum computer running Shor's algorithm cracks our traditional public key encryption. To put it simply, Shor's algorithm is essentially a mathematical master key that can guess the massive prime numbers, locking up our security almost instantly. We're talking about the encryption that protects legacy banking, standard internet protocols, traditional blockchains, all of it. We currently secure trillions of dollars with math that a future quantum computer will view as a rudimentary puzzle. Q-day threatens to shatter these algorithms in a matter of hours, exposing global wealth to catastrophic hacks. So this completely turns the shift toward quantum safety from a nice-to-have technological luxury into an absolute, immediate national security directive.
And if you think your encrypted banking data is safe just because these quantum computers aren't fully operational yet, well, think again. The author highlights a really chilling tactic being used right now called Harvest Now, Decrypt Later. Adversarial entities are absolutely not waiting for Q-day to arrive to start their attacks. They are actively intercepting and hoarding encrypted global financial traffic today. They're silently copying this data, dumping it into massive server farms, and simply waiting for future quantum hardware to mature so they can unlock those keys tomorrow. The clock isn't just ticking, it started a long time ago.
Which brings us to Section 3, the quantum ledger. According to Starr's framework, a true financial evolution requires 3 non-negotiable structural pillars to ensure both economic stability and mathematical invulnerability. First up, a managed currency reset that moves away from inflated fiat and toward hard commodities. Second, true quantum cryptography, shifting our security from classical math over to the laws of quantum mechanics. And third, decentralized sovereignty, moving entirely away from single points of failure, like centralized clearinghouses, and toward distributed ledger networks. And the crucial takeaway here is that you can't just pick and choose. If you have a managed currency reset anchored by hard commodities, but your cryptography is weak, the wealth just gets stolen. If you have true quantum cryptography but centralized control, the system gets corrupted from the inside out. And if you have decentralized sovereignty but no hard asset backing, it eventually succumbs to inflation. You literally need all three functioning together to form a true quantum world currency.
But to maintain that second pillar, true quantum cryptography, a static, set-it-and-forget-it system just won't work. The author really emphasizes the absolute need for algorithmic agility. Think of it like having the ability to completely change the engine of a commercial airplane while it's in mid-flight. A global currency simply cannot rely on the rigid, unchangeable legacy code of yesterday's blockchains. It demands the structural capacity to instantly hot-swap cryptographic defenses without ever disrupting the global flow of commerce. The network has to constantly adapt as raw computational decryption power grows in the real world.
So what does that adaptable defense actually look like under the hood? Instead of traditional math, this next-generation architecture relies on post-quantum cryptography, specifically lattice-based frameworks. Imagine hiding financial data inside this incredibly complex, multi-dimensional, constantly shifting maze that even a massive quantum computer gets completely lost in trying to navigate. Within this maze, we have highly specific, heavily vetted frameworks. There's ML-Chem protecting the underlying communication connections. We have ML-DSA serving as quantum-secure authentication for digital wallets. And finally, STL-HDSA acts as a sort of fail-safe, hash-based backup. These are the specific mathematical defenses engineered from the ground up to be fundamentally uncrackable, creating an impenetrable vault for global trade.
Section 4. The Sovereign Mesh.
With his crazy technological foundation firmly set, the source material pivots a bit away from the tech and focuses on the geopolitical outcome. The author pushes back heavily against this historically dystopian idea of a single dictatorial world bank. Just look at the stark difference between the old way and the proposed sovereign mesh. On one side, you have the legacy system defined by centralized control, fiat debt, critical quantum vulnerabilities, and sluggish settlement times that take literal days to clear. The sovereign mesh flips this entirely on its head. It is a decentralized ledger mesh that uses frictionless, instantaneous settlement. It proves that independent nations can actually maintain their own local sovereignty, like a digital dollar or a digital euro, while operating on a unified, quantum-safe cryptographic highway. It's a globally connected economy, sure, but without a centralized financial dictator pulling all the strings.
And finally, Section 5, Surviving the Financial Shift.
We've seen the threat, and we've explored the proposed infrastructure. Now let's look at the author's strategic blueprint for adaptation. Starr offers a stark, almost brutal foresight, the post-Q-Day economic split. He predicts that within the next 5 to 10 years, the global economy won't just transition nicely. It will violently divide into a harsh binary landscape. On one side, you have the quantum-safe early adopters who command global trade because their assets are provably secure. On the other side, you have the extinct legacy systems. Nations and enterprises that fail to migrate to lattice-based cryptography will watch their digital reserves become practically worthless overnight as global confidence in their security drops to absolute zero. We are looking at a massive, impending flight to safety.
To survive this kind of paradigm shift, waiting around simply isn't an option. Organizations and sovereign entities have to take 3 exact steps right now to transition into a true quantum world currency ecosystem. First, implement cryptographic agility immediately. Stop hard-coding current encryption standards into your enterprise architectures. Second, shift corporate treasury logic entirely away from speculative tokens or inflationary fiat and aggressively diversify into tokenized real-world assets to firmly anchor your wealth. And third, adopt the sovereign mesh model to prepare your enterprise for direct, instant peer-to-peer reconciliation, totally bypassing the friction of multi-day traditional banking.
The blueprint is drawn, and the infrastructure for the future is literally being laid down as we speak. So as the global economy rapidly approaches this stark binary, you really have to ask yourself, is your capital prepared for the post-Q-Day split? Are you ready for a world where money is liberated from centralized hegemony, anchored by physical scarcity, and secured by the immutable laws of quantum mechanics? Because the quantum clock is already ticking, and the encrypted data they need to take everything is likely already being harvested today. Thanks for diving into this explainer with us. We'll catch you next time.